Today we're going to be here at Universal Studios, Florida, where we're going to be traveling around and taking a closer look at the different buildings in this park. Hi everybody and welcome to the World of Micah. Did you know that majority of the buildings here at Universal Studios, Florida are actually based off of real buildings? Now I've done a video similar to this on Hollywood Boulevard showcasing the buildings over there and their counterparts out in Hollywood, California. Today, we're going to travel around New York, San Francisco, all around Universal Studios, Florida, finding different buildings here that are based off of real buildings, real places around the United States. You guys are going to get to tag along. Now, let's take a closer look. I got to say, one of the buildings that always sticks out to me is the Ghirdelli Building right over here next to Richter's Burger Company and Fast and the Furious Supercharged. Did you know this is based off the actual Ghirdelli Building and Clock Tower in San Francisco? You can see in this rendering of the Ghirdelli Chocolate Building in San Francisco where they got this idea from. They were building San Francisco and they thought, hey, this is a very popular building. Everyone knows Ghirdelli chocolate, so they decided to bring it here to sunny Florida. Now this is an actual photo of the building. You can see the clock tower is strikingly the same. I mean, it pretty much, I think they got the blueprints and just went for it. Pretty amazing. So the next time you're here, know that that's an actual Ghirdelli that you can visit in San Francisco. Now the Ghirdelli Building here at Universal Studios, Florida, simply just a facade. Inside that building to the right-hand side are bathrooms. You're not gonna get chocolate. Now I know what you guys are thinking, oh, everybody knows this. This is the New York State Pavilion. Right, but do you remember why they put this here for the Men in Black attraction? In the movie, those things actually turned into flying saucers and went flying all over the place. But yes, they are based off of the New York City Pavilion. You guys can see in the photograph a few little changes. One of them is actually a triple decker. It is what it looks like in this photo. I'm not sure what's up with that and why these are only two. Maybe they had to have some similarities and some differences. But that's what these are based off of. So the next time you're here, just think about what those are really based off of, the New York City Pavilion. Pretty awesome. I do wish we could go up there and kind of observe the park from up there. That'd be really cool to have like an observation deck. That's what I want to do. But yeah, that's right out here in front of the Men in Black Alien Attack. All right, moving on to the next spot. Next up on the list is King's Cross. This is actually based off of King's Cross in London, England. Very famous train company, train station, if you will. You guys can see in the photograph, basically what they gave us was half where that clock tower is. It continues on the other side, so we basically got half of King's Cross station. When you guys venture inside, even the signage on the inside looks very similar to the real King's Cross out in London, England. Now we've made it into San Francisco, where this was the former home of disaster and earthquake, the big one. This is actually based off of a real railroad building called Ferries and Cliff House Railroad in San Francisco, California. If you look right up here, you can actually see there's an F and CHR code. That stands for Ferries and Cliff House Railroad Company, established in 1887. And then right up here, confirms it right there. It says Ferries and Cliff House Railroad. Right there. Now, I will show you guys what the actual building looks like. There's some similarities. You can definitely see where they got the idea from. And then this is another photograph you can see. Basically the brick, the architecture of that chimney that you're seeing is where they got the idea for this. Pretty cool. I did not know what this was based off of. It always kind of reminded me of, I don't know, a firehouse in a way. But now you know, it's based off of a real railroad out in San Francisco. More signage on the building right up here. You can see Ferries and Cliff House Railway Company 1889 right there. and also on the window here. Sometimes facades and names and everything you see on buildings and theme parks are the real thing. Pretty cool. I will never look at Earthquake the same again. Speaking of San Francisco, our next spot is right here, the Fisherman's Wharf of San Francisco. This whole area is kind of based off of this area, and I will show you guys the real Fisherman's Wharf sign right now. Pretty cool. Spot on. They were not hiding it. They wanted you to know that you were in Fisherman's Wharf of San Francisco, a very famous spot in San Francisco. And a lot of the places around San Francisco, in this area of Universal Studios, when I'm referring to San Francisco, are based off of piers. You will see different piers all along here, and a lot of these buildings are based off of those piers. One, in particular, being Richter's Burger Company. Now, I believe this building was based off of Pier number 45, Pier 45, and it was Shed A in San Francisco. Now here at Universal Studios, this is Pier 27, Shed D. Looking at Pier 27 in San Francisco looks nothing like this building, but this is Pier number 45. See for yourself the architecture and the front entrance. Pretty sure that's the building that they based it off of. Now, I read some tragedy happened at Pier 45 out in San Francisco. They had a fire incident there a couple of years back. All right, our next location is going to be here in New York. We have several places we're going to be visiting down in good old New York, New York. Straight ahead is Revenge of the Mummy, one of my favorite coasters here at Universal, and this is going to be a 2-in-1 stop. You have two buildings here, the Paradise Theater and the Museum of Antiques. First, the Paradise Theater is actually based off of the Paramount Theater in New York City. You guys can see in the photograph here what it looked like way back in the day. They also had a big premiere once upon a time with Elvis Presley when Love Me Tender was debuting on the big screen. I'll always think about that anytime I see the Paramount Theater in New York City. Pretty easy to kind of do this out here at Universal. Just use the P, the same as the Paramount P. So the next time you come over here and look at this, just think about Paramount. You'll always remember that's based off of the Paramount Theater. Pretty cool. And then right next to it, the Museum of Antiques. This is based off of Penn Station in New York City. Now they made this look like an old Museum of Antiques, and it kind of fits with the theming here. But this is based off of Penn Station in New York. You can see in the photograph what I'm talking about, the architecture. And I'm pretty sure right behind that Revenge of the Mummy sign right there is a clock. Could be wrong, but I believe there's a clock. This is what it looks like from the side in this photograph that you guys can compare it to, and then I will show you guys what it looks like straight on, and you can see how I figured it out. And this is looking straight on, and you guys can see the photograph there. Bits and pieces of this stuck out to me, which is how I figured it out. For one, the pillars, the way this stacks right here, museum, and then right up here, this part here looks just like it does in the photograph as well. Never been to Penn Station, but when I go, I will think of Revenge of the Mummy. Now the next one's over here next to the old Ghostbusters firehouse. And by the way, when you're walking around and looking at different buildings, some of them are very obvious. Like this is based off of Macy's in New York. That, you know, obviously sticks out like a sore thumb. But I always chuckle at this building right here, the Metropolis Tribune, which is a tribute to Superman. And yeah, they did film Superboy episodes of Superboy, the TV show, in this park. But our next spot's right over here, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum. And it actually does say Solomon R. Guggenheim on this. It's just a facade, and it's only half of it. But I wanted to show you guys what the actual Guggenheim Museum looks like in New York City. You guys can see in the photograph, it's quite large. This is actually cut, and the way they cut it, it fits in with this New York City facade back here with the public library. So if you back up here, and you'll watch on the building, now check that out. It looks like it has some depth to it, and it looks like, you know, it's an actual building here and not just a flat facade. Also in New York, Rip Ride Rocket doesn't bust through and go around the Solomon Guggenheim building, but that's what this is based off of. Pretty cool, right? And it's right next to the old Ghostbusters firehouse. Up next is Tonight Show, NBC Studios Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon. This is based off the Rockefeller Center and NBC Studios in New York, the actual NBC Studios. Now, this entrance right here is the observation deck entrance of Rainbow Room. You guys can see in the photograph what this is based off of. Pretty cool. If you ever go out to New York and go to the NBC Studios, you will see this building, but you will not see Race Through New York with Jimmy Fallon or a cutout of Jimmy Fallon up top. Instead, you will see the photograph that I showed you guys. Pretty awesome. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one. Real quick, I'll tell you guys a quick funny story. My band back in the day used to do a lot of tours on the East Coast, and one time we were in New York City, and my brother and I walked inside NBC Studios looking for the gift shop. Well, somehow, some way, in some fashion, we ended up getting into a elevator, which you had to have a special code to get on this elevator, and we went very high. We went all the way up to the observation deck. I went up there, the doors opened to the elevator, we stepped out, and there was a black tie affair going on, a very nice cocktail party happening. Someone famous was up there who rented it out, I'm sure. Everyone was looking at us like, what are you doing up here? We didn't stay long, but that's a great story to tell. I went on top of that building my first time in New York City. Crazy, crazy times. Up next on our list is right here next to the lagoon. This is based off of Battery Park in New York. You can see on the sign right here, it says Battery Park. Now, looking around in this area, I'm going to show you guys a photograph of Battery Park and what it's based off of. Right here you can see the real Battery Park has the same kind of lights. They have park benches just like right here, and it's overlooking a waterfront. Pretty cool, right? I had no idea that this Battery Park was actually based off a real place called Battery Park. That's kind of cool to me. Pretty amazing, this little tiny chunk. They actually decided to theme this after a real place. Pretty awesome. Now, we are moving on to our next and final spot of the video. See right up there, it says Battery Park as well. The next time you guys come, I guarantee you will always pay attention to this, because I always pay attention to this now every time I come into this park. Never really noticed it said Battery Park up there, and now I can't unsee it. Now, straight ahead is the Cafe La Bamba. They call it the Cafe La Bamba. This is where you check in for the VIP experience if you're gonna do the VIP tour of Universal. They have a themed restaurant here. If you look right above Cafe La Bamba, it says Hollywood Hotel. Well, it is actually based off of the real Hollywood Hotel in sunny California. I'll show you guys right up here what I'm talking about. Let me give you guys a better perspective. Now, looking at it from this perspective, it is spot on. The main registration building right there, the Hollywood Hotel sign. The building to the right of it, which is the hotel bar, it says on the neon sign, looks just like it does in the photograph as well. This is the real Hollywood Hotel in California, and they decided to bring that here to Universal Studios right next to Hollywood Boulevard. In fact, we are standing on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. How incredible. Every time I walk by and see this, I'm always like, I wonder if that looks like the real Hollywood Hotel in California. Well, doing my research, I found out it does. This part of the building and this part of the building looks just like its counterpart in sunny California. Absolutely incredible. I love it. I wish we could be in actual sunny California and Hollywood together, but hopefully soon we'll be doing that. Until then, I can always spend my time here on Hollywood Boulevard. But our adventure for today here at Universal Studios Florida is finished for today. Our adventure for today has come to an end. This was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching. But I think it's time to say goodbye. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the thumbs up button. The next time you're here at Universal Studios Florida, tell them World of Micah sent you. There's going to be a link above and at the end of this video to the video I did on Hollywood Boulevard showcasing what those buildings are actually based off of in sunny California. Check that video out if you haven't done so. But I will see you guys in the next adventure. Until then, stay weird. Goodbye.